Summer's right around the corner. It's about 107 days away. That's give or take 15, 16 weeks from today. And so, right, what a better time to get ahead of the game and, right, start your nutrition regimen, start your training regimen, and get your ducks in a row so that when summer comes around, you're ready, right? We've got wedding season, it's beach season, shirts off season. We want to be the best versions of ourselves. So, that is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about an entire layout for how we are going to approach summer shredding for the next 15 to 16 weeks. In this video, we're going to talk about the entire nutrition protocol. This is going to include calories, macronutrients, food choice and diet composition. We're also going to talk about physical activity, so getting our steps in and getting a strength training routine in addition to making sure that we are getting our kind of extracurricular activities, if you will. And then finally, we're going to talk about how we're going to track everything, how we're going to look at progress, analyze, and move forward every week. So this is the first video in a several part series where we are going to legitimately, I'm doing it with you. We're going to do meal plans. We're going to look at calorie tracking. We're going to do nutrition reviews. We're going to, every step of the way, we're going to try and document as much as possible so that, right, you have somebody that is a dietitian and they're going through this process as well, and you're seeing their results. You have your results on your end. So, right, it's a real collaborative effect here. So I'm hoping to create a fun community as we approach summer and we approach summer shredding. To give us a little context as we go into this next chapter, what we're going to look at is essentially a high level overview is going to be that we are going to eat at maintenance level calories, right? We're not going to use a nutritional deficit as our main source that we're going to kind of the lever, if you will, to pull on to make sure that you are getting lean. But rather, we're going to make sure that we are eating at calorie maintenance. Our diet composition is on point. We are not suffering. We're not starving. None of that business here, but rather, right, we're nourishing ourselves, we're feeding ourselves, we're providing our body with enough protein to recover from the workouts. We have enough carbs and fats and energy to go into the workouts and crush them. In addition to that, we're going to really highlight the physical activity aspects where, right, we're going to level up our walks. We're going to do weighted vest walks. We're going to increase our step count every single day. We're going to make sure that we are strength training at least a few times per week. And finally, we're going to do one sort of activity per week, whether it's a hike or a bike ride, something that's going to be some more cardiovascular based, right? So we're using this physical activity as the main lever or driver for this leanness. So this is really a different approach than probably a lot of other people are encouraging going into summer shredding. So again, rather, I don't want to be miserable over the next, call it 4 months. I just can't do another deficit. They suck. I hate them. My workouts suck. My work capacity sucks. Like my brain's not as work doesn't work as well. So, and I just don't want to get stuck in that cycle again. So that's what I'm hoping to do and promote here, which is, right, nourishing, feeding, training hard, getting after it, measuring our progress, and then finally, right, self-monitoring, tracking our workouts, getting progressively better every single week because guess what? We tracked it. And then also making sure that we're tracking our calories and nutrients that we're taking in to make sure we're not missing anything. So overall, I mean, that's a quick high-level overview. Let's get into today's video. All right, so our 17-week summer shredding nutrition protocol. How we're going to go about this is we are going to essentially use calorie maintenance. That means that we're going to be eating at a level which is not going to really encourage any weight loss, but it's also not going to encourage any weight gain. Now, you might be asking, how are we going to get lean if we're not in a calorie deficit? We're going to get to that here in a minute. But for the next 17 weeks, the goal is to eat at maintenance. The goal is to nourish ourselves. The goal is to provide the nourishment that our muscles need, but also not providing too much that's going to put on body fat, right? And so the goal here, for instance, as we're using me as the example and we're going through this and I'm documenting this all the way through, the goal is for myself going to be to get about 2,900 calories. 2882, I think, was the exact target, but we're going to round it up to 2,900 calories for the simplicity of it. Now, I put a link down below where you can figure out your own maintenance calories as well, so you can go ahead and calculate those at this point. That being said, in addition to eating 2,900 calories, we're going to focus on making sure that we're getting an appropriate amount of the macronutrients that we need. So starting off with protein, we're going to be trying to shoot for somewhere in the range of like 120 to 190 grams of protein. That's somewhere in the range of like 0.6 grams to 1 gram per body pound. Now that is quite a big range, and I am going to be shooting for the top end of that range as well. The other macros are going to break down and just kind of fill in the gaps. We're going to go with carbohydrates. For the 2,900 calories is about 400 grams of carbohydrate. Then we're also going to be eating about, give or take, somewhere in the range of 45 to 65 grams of dietary fat. Now, these are targets, these are goals. They don't have to be like so pinpoint or so on, like they don't have to be exact. Rather, they're more or less targets for us to hit, right? You can kind of see it's a high carbohydrate, high protein, low to moderate fat intake overall. In addition to meeting these macronutrients, we're going to focus on eating very nutrient dense, they have a ton of vitamins, minerals, fiber, all the things that we need. And the way that we're going to do that is we are going to make sure that we're eating from the food groups. We're going to make sure that we're eating fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts and seeds, beans and legumes, and lean proteins. By focusing on these food groups, we're going to be able to fulfill those macronutrient needs and fulfill those calorie needs, but also be able to fulfill all your vitamins and your minerals and your fiber intake, right? So it's pretty simple, pretty easy framework to follow for the nutrition protocol. Each week, I will post a new meal plan. Depending on how this goes, I'll probably document on how I make some of these meal plans. The week one's meal plan, which includes this queso chicken mac and cheese recipe, is going to be linked down below. This week's meal plan includes a blueberry peanut butter banana smoothie, this queso mac and cheese. We also have a Greek yogurt bowl, in addition to a dinner that's going to have some sort of protein plus a carbohydrate source. This week it's going to be quinoa and then some sort of veggies. In addition to the structure of breakfast, snack, lunch, dinner, we're going to have a workout nutrition regimen. That will include a pre-workout Gatorade drink, then an intra-workout Gatorade drink, followed by a post-workout snack of some sort. This week it's going to be some bran flakes with some honey and some milk, and then something else as well because I need to fulfill a few more calories. There might be a few calories left over at the end of the night where I'll be able to snack on some popcorn or something else, depending on what my macros are looking like for that day. So in addition to all of the things that we just talked about, meeting the calories, hitting the macros, eating from the food groups, we are going to kind of tie this all together by self-monitoring, right? We're going to make sure that we are tracking our calories, weighing and measuring our food, and just being as precise and as accurate as we can over the course of the next 17 weeks to make sure that we are meeting all of the nutritional needs and we're fueling our bodies. We're giving ourselves enough energy. That's a real purpose here, right? So that we can go do more work. We can go push it in the gym. We can go, really get after the weights, get after the reps, all that fun stuff. And we can also, add in things like hikes, bike rides. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but one of the big levers we're going to pull on is the energy that we can expend. We're going to be able to use the extra energy to, for instance, go for a walk with a weighted vest on an everyday basis. So that's really the lever that we're going to pull on to get lean. Again, we're going to go into that in a little bit more detail here in just a minute. But as far as the nutrition is concerned, we've got calories, we've got macros, we've got food groups. We're going to track everything. We're going to use Cronometer to track everything. And you'll see that throughout the next 17 weeks as we do this and kind of how that breaks down. So stay tuned as we will talk about that fitness next. Let's do it. Yeah, definitely chose the worst day to do this. It's so windy here in Colorado, but nonetheless, the second component of this Let's Get Shredded by Summer is going to be, right, trying to increase overall physical activity. That's the lever we're going to try and pull on when we are working with trying to get leaner for the summer. Like that, this is the thing we're going to pull on rather than trying to restrict nutrition or rather than trying to restrict calories. We're trying to keep both of those relatively high or at least at maintenance levels. And then we can then use that energy to then make sure that we are able to get into a deficit, right? So it's more or less a physical activity deficit rather than a nutritional deficit. So the goal here is going to be getting at least 30 minutes, but really the target would be an hour, maybe 2 30-minute bouts of a walk every single day. Now I am leveling that up a little bit by incorporating a weighted vest. You saw me put that on earlier. I've got an extra 20 pounds on me, and I've got my little, where's she at, Belgian Malinois. So, right, she's gonna love this, getting out more and more. So it works both ways, and I'm sure she's gonna enjoy it. So yeah, again, the goal is gonna be shooting for 7,500 to 12,000 steps a day, getting an extra, hour walk in. This is gonna be in addition to the strength training regimen and then the one bout of long duration physical activity like a hike or a bike ride every single week. So that being said, clearly my cardio needs to pick up a little bit, and she's got a stick now. But yeah, I hope y'all can hear this with all the wind. But yeah, so the second thing is going to be making sure that we pull on the lever of physical activity rather than pulling on the lever of calories to then get that weight loss in, right? So we'll be back soon. We're going to talk about this here in a minute where it's not so windy. Now that we're out of that crazy wind, we can continue this conversation about physical activity, right? The main lever, if you will, for driving this fat loss and this muscle building process that we're going to try and do to get lean before summer. But we don't want to look emaciated. We don't want to look scrawny going into summer. We want to have nice, big, full muscle bellies. We want to make sure that they're growing during this period of time, and we're really fostering that environment. And how we're going to do that is we're going to make sure that we're doing at least 4 days of strength training per week. And in those 4 days, we're going to do 2 different workouts. We're going to do an upper body day and a lower body day. Ideally, we're doing 2 of those per week. So 2 upper bodies, 2 lower bodies. Then within each category, we'll start with the upper body. We're going to do a machine or dumbbell row. We're also going to do a chest fly machine in addition to a cable lat pull down. And then we're going to do an incline dumbbell press. And then from there, we're going to target the shoulders, doing an upright row and a dumbbell lateral raise. Within each of these, we're going to shoot for like 2 to 3 sets. We're going to do 10 to 20 reps and really trying to encourage hypertrophy and muscle growth. Slow, controlled movements and like all the good tactics, right? We're not going to tack on any extra cardio after these. We're not going to do anything else. We're going to make sure that we are focused on just really driving that muscle, and we're driving that muscle growth. Behind that is going to be, or with that as a layer onto that, is going to be the nutrition aspect, where we're going to have a pre, intra, and post workout nutrition, which we'll get to in here in just a minute. But let's first address the lower body day. For the lower body day, we are going to do a seated hamstring curl. Then we're going to move into kind of a Romanian deadlift or a straight-legged deadlift. Then from there, we're going to do an elevated heel lunge. Yeah, we're moving on to a leg press movement. So that is going to kind of completely gas out the legs. I've done this workout now for a couple of weeks, and it's a gnarly one. And with that, we're going to do arms. We're going to just touch arms because we didn't really touch them in our upper body day. Probably be pretty tired after the leg day. So it's just going to allow us to at least touch the arms once per the workout, twice per week, right? So we're going to do some incline seated dumbbell curls in addition to a cable tricep extension. Those are going to be the 2 days that we focus on. And again, we're going to repeat that twice per week. So what I kind of anticipate happening is either we'll train one day where we'll do lower body day, and if we're not exhausted and still beat up from that day, we'll go in and do an upper body day. If we're still beat up and exhausted, we have some room to have a rest day. So it could be like lower body, rest day, upper body, rest day, lower body, rest day, so on and so forth. Or it could be like a lower body, upper body, rest day, lower body, upper body, rest day. And so kind of depending on how the week pans out, how busy the week gets, is kind of how I'll plug those in for the strength training regimen. Last but not least, for the physical activity, we are going to incorporate one sort of long duration cardiovascular training per week. Now, this could be a bike ride. I'm in Colorado. Mountain biking is a big deal here. Whether it's a bike ride, a hike, something that's like definitely going to get your heart rate up. It's a little bit more than the walks, even with a weighted vest. And it's just going to, right? The goal here is fat loss, is to pull on the system, have the physical activity be the lever rather than, right, being exhausted from not eating enough food, right? I'd rather maintain a higher level of performance from a physical activity standpoint than be completely drained because I haven't eaten enough, right? I'd rather go ride my mountain bike than starve myself is kind of the philosophy. So, right, again, we have the three components. We have the daily walks with a weighted vest, kind of leveling that up a little bit. We have the regular strength training, hitting 4 of those per week. Finally, we have one hour session, maybe 1 hour and a half, whether it's going for a hike or going for a bike ride. Next up, let's talk about measuring progress. Now, as we go through this, it's going to be really important that we know that we are seeing progress to keep us motivated and moving forward. And we're going to measure progress in a few different ways. We're going to measure progress via a scale. We're going to measure our progress via body fat measurements. We're also going to measure it looking at progress pictures, and we're going to look at it measuring actual body measurements using a measuring tape. So let's start with our scaled weight here. I've got a Nokia scale. This is going to take care of both of the weight and body fat percentage. So using this Nokia scale, this is going to be able to measure both my weight and body fat percentage, and I'm going to do that on a pretty regular basis. I'm going to do this ideally every day. Now, knowing myself, I'm probably going to miss a few days. It's just sometimes it's hard, sometimes you forget. So I gave the range of anywhere between once to 7 times per week. We're going to get a scaled weight, which is automatically going to pull the body fat in addition to that. And so we can see trends over the next 17 weeks, 16 weeks of our weight staying relatively the same, maybe fluctuating about 10 pounds down. I'm given that range between 190 to 200 pounds. Then we are going to measure body fat. That's going to be the real indicator here, where, right, are we losing body fat? And, right, this is going to be one way that we measure it. Of course, the other ways are going to help support that data, but this is going to be a major component that we're going to try and pull from every single day, if not every single day, at least once a week. The next way that we're going to measure progress is we're going to take physical body measurements. We've got our diagram here for us where we are going to take a tailor's measuring tape or a cloth measuring tape, and we are going to take physical measurements of these measurements here. So we're going to do both our left and right arm. We're going to do our chest, also our waist, our butt hips area, and finally our thighs. By including these measurements in addition to our scaled weight and our body fat percentage, we're going to be able to get a good picture of what's going on as far as our body fat percentage, as far as our muscle mass, and right, we can kind of identify, oh great, my waist is shrinking, but my thighs are getting bigger. Oh, my chest is getting bigger. And we can then take that information and look at the body fat percentage and then confirm, hey, yeah, my body fat percentage is going down. My weight isn't necessarily changing a ton, but rather, right, I'm getting leaner, I'm getting fuller, I'm getting stronger. So those are all going to be great indicators of we are in the right direction and just right keeping us motivated, keeping us moving towards the goal, towards getting lean for summer. And again, that date is going to be June 20th. That's our end goal for this one. The final measurement that we're going to take is going to be a visual measurement. It's going to be progress pictures. We're essentially going to take pictures of us facing forward, of us turning to the side, of our backs, of us on the other side. We can even put a couple flexing in there. And again, right, we use all of these data points. We use the weight, the body fat, the body measurements, and the progress pictures to really paint this picture that we are essentially going in the right direction towards our goals of getting leaner, of getting stronger, and just, looking good for summer. The last piece of this and how we're going to put this all together, how we're going to make sure that we are tracking everything, is we are going to track, right? We're tracking our progress. We're using the scaled weight. We're using the body measurements, the body fat. We have some progress pictures. Now we just need to layer in 2 other aspects, which would be tracking the physical activity and tracking the nutrition. Starting with the nutrition, we're going to use Cronometer to track all of our calories and all of our macros. We're going to use a food scale to weigh out all of our food and measuring cups to make sure that we're pretty accurate with all of these. In addition to, we're going to track all of our workouts. Now, I'm going to keep this pretty simple. I'm just going to put my workouts in a Apple Note, and then each of my workouts, I'm just going to copy and paste and then add in, did I add in an extra rep? Did I add in some extra weight every single workout? And so I can kind of see that progress over time and make sure that I'm not just spinning my wheels when I go to the gym. So, right, this last piece, which would be self monitoring, is really just pulling everything together, right? It's making sure, great, I tracked my nutrition, I stayed within 2,900 calories, I ate 190 grams of protein, I hit my fiber goals, I'm not missing any vitamins or minerals. Cool. Then I'm going to be tracking my workouts to make sure, hey, I'm not, just wasting my time going to the gym, but rather I'm working on progressive overload. I am increasing the reps or weight or intensity, whatever it might be, and I can kind of track that over time each week, analyze, reassess, and then have a game plan for the following week, right? That way there's no holes, right? We have everything lined up here. We have calories, workouts, um, everything set up. I would say I am going to track the walks as well. I'm going to just log them on my Apple Watch just to make sure, hey, I'm getting the certain amount of time that I put out myself to. I'm getting the certain amount of time that I was designated to do. So like 2 30-minute walks, time them. But that's probably the extent that I'll do with those as well. So other than that, yeah, everything's going to be in Cronometer, Apple Notes, and then on the Apple Watch as far as tracking is concerned.